Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. Seneca. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Full Metal Cast. I am sorry I skipped a week in posting an episode. I have an excuse. It's not a great excuse, and as I'm looking at the screen, no, it's not because I fell behind on putting away my one and only Christmas decoration. I'll have to do that this weekend. I actually had recorded two outstanding episodes with some local dudes in the group chat that I've been running around with lately, with excellent experiences, in medical contract work, contract for DoD sort of stuff. And naturally, as I have always done in the past, I fucked it up with shitty mics and lost 99% of those conversations, which probably totaled close to 5 or 6 hours worth of conversations, to poor, shitty audio that got completely drowned out through echo and just completely overwhelming the mic. And so now I have a real microphone now. I no longer am using the Yeti. I still have my little lapel microphones that I like to use every now and then when it's one-on-one, but now I have a full setup to accommodate 3 or 4 guests with their own cardioid, dynamic microphone, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's not a condenser microphone. I'm learning this thing as I go. I bit the bullet, said fuck it. I'm going to spend my tax return and more on a solid audio interface and good mics because I owe it to my guests and myself really to have really good audio. So you can look forward to that. Some better audio coming in the channel, but that is why I fell behind on posting. I was simply trying to save as much of the conversations as possible, edit them, make them as bearable to listen. And I realized this isn't fair to those people I had on to have that be their first interaction. So tomorrow, I'm going to have the fellas come back over, as many who want to come, sort of like an open mic night for the local idiots, and just talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about. The cool thing is, this little audio interface, I now have a soundboard, and you better believe we're going to absolutely abuse the fuck out of that thing. I'll try not to get too annoying with it, but this is all new. It's all very exciting stuff. And I'm excited to get the guys back along with Cry Cowboy, just to talk more about what we're doing locally, what we're getting after. So last night was Friday. We had another class, if you will, another meeting of our like CQB league. The once a week sort of gathering. We do 4 weeks. 3 out of the 4 weeks are not complete, where we go to an actual indoor shoot house, do live runs, work through scenarios. And the last week was very cool. We were picked up the speed a little bit, still clearing, not dynamically, but what's the word for it? Very tired. Um, deliberately clearing a house. So we're not going through super fast. We're, taking our time, moving as fast as we're able to really process information, working on PID. So the way the shoot house was set up this week was they were live, like they were hanging paper targets, but they were images of people holding various objects and in different sort of positions. And so for the first room you enter, there's a dude just like this, holding up like a phone, like in his face. And the funny part about that was there was already a group that had ran through the house. So he left a couple of the targets up as they were and then added and moved others around. There's a group that came in like before us earlier in the week. And the dude who had his phone up like this, or it was really more like down here, or over here, his entire face was just like shot out. Holes just riddled the paper. And it turns out that the group before us that did that to that poor individual filming were actually cops, he said. So that was spectacular. And I will say only one of us in the group actually pulled the trigger on that guy. He didn't understand that all of the targets in the house weren't, combatants. So he wasn't part of our group. He's another one part of the class, but luckily one of us in the actual league ended up taking the shot, and everyone else did a good job of positively identifying the targets, except for me, where there was a really difficult room further into the house. We worked 2 stories this week, and further into the house towards the middle where the stairway came into play, there were two really deep, dug-in corners in the room that you sort of had to deal with, and then deal with the stairwell as soon as you got those cleared. But there were two targets in the room. One I was able to take a shot at from within the previous room I had cleared, and as I was sort of getting into like a corner, I had noticed another target, and it was a very interesting paper target, one that I've never seen before. It was a picture of a guy, and only a quarter of the target had this dude in it. The rest of the target was just all like white wall, and he was peeking behind the wall with like a Glock down like his hip, like pointing it at you. And for the life of me, just because it was a two-dimensional target, I could not make out what the fuck was in this dude on the target, his hand. And I definitely exposed myself way too many times trying to get a positive like identification of whether or not he was a threat or a non-threat. I never once considered turning on my light to help aid in that sort of discovery process. And I froze up, and there was a whole lot of sort of unpacking of that afterwards. I did the upstairs just fine. The rest was pretty smooth, except for another thing, which I'll get into. But it really was a moment for me to go, wow, I was disappointed in myself for, well, one, getting myself killed realistically. But one thing I found very interesting was even though it was paper, and even though I was, going through this house very deliberately, your heart rate's up. You're thinking about a million different things at once, priority of threats checklist, your footwork, your breathing, all of the gun safety rules, manipulating the safety, not making sure your muzzle's, breaking the barrier before entering a room, making sure you're in the right hand, left or right, depending on the angle of approach. All of this, and then 100 other things at once. And, never thought to use the light. But also, I didn't get caught up in the mindset of it's just paper shoot and just go. I thought that was interesting. I'm still working out of whether or not that's a good thing. I think in a scenario where you are not sure whether or not everyone in the house is a threat, probably for the best, but that's something I need to work on a little bit more is, positive identification in low, it wasn't even necessarily low light. It was just a foreign looking target. And I think that just goes to show how complex, how incredibly difficult this stuff is. And so you can move as fast as you want, you can look as cool as you want, but I cannot put into words how difficult and how complex, this quantum equation is how I sort of look at it, unless someone else has done it. At a high level, even at a low level, just getting started, it's impossible to have done this and go, oh yeah, it's just it's that simple. It's just not. It's a crazy thing. I encourage everyone to try it because like we live in structures, we live in houses, we live in apartments. It's eye opening. It's just something that is of great value, I think, unless you're living out in the woods in a single room cabin or in a tent. Um, I'm not saying this is the end all be all. It's a good skill to have if you have access to it and it makes sense financially and time investment wise to just expose yourself to it and understand the concept because I very much enjoy it. The three fellas I'm taking very much enjoy it. We're probably going to return back for another sort of beginner's course just to learn a little bit more, to get more reps in with more of the guys in the group before graduating to the advanced. So definitely seek that out. Watch the videos. Work on transitioning left and right hands in your house, I will say. Shooting lefty was very difficult for me, and I've only been doing it for like 3 weeks consistently now. Dry firing, in between each Friday class. Um, and I'm not saying, and I think there's different beliefs out there as to whether or not you should be switching hands. It's going to be very situational, dependent on the situation. um, in a more deliberate setting, in my opinion, in the way we're learning it, it makes more sense that if you have the time and you need to limit your exposure to targets while taking in as much information as possible about your surroundings so you make the right decision. To me, at least, it makes sense to expose as little of yourself as possible. And if that means switching, to your left hand to take that time to, really pie that corner and really process the information in those unknown areas, it might make sense. If you're in a bit of a hurry, you're probably sticking to dominant hand and people are dying. But this is from a complete beginner. This is just what I've been learning. This is just my opinion. I'm not here to teach it. I'm not here to tell you which way is the right way or that, you should really do it at all. It's just my opinion that it's probably a good thing to know if it's available to you, because why not? So I've been doing that. What else has been going on? So I made my mistake with the recordings at CQB League. Oh, mistakes. That was the big thing I really wanted to get into because, oh boy, what a list of mistakes we have to go through. The what do I want to get into first here? I think the border is the big thing where we saw like half the country just sort of decide, no, fuck the federal government, we're helping Texas, in like response to the governor's letter that day. Obviously, I'm sure the map has been spread around of which states have actually supported Texas, and it came out to be much more than half the country since like 2021 have sent resources and/or troops. But in direct response to the actual letter that the governor sent out recently, basically declaring a state of invasion, it would appear that half the country basically said, "Yeah, fuck the feds, we're helping the state of Texas," which super cool. And in the moment, I was watching that extremely carefully because the precedent that was about to be set was huge, right? Because when was the last time in history you had that many states decide to stand up, stick it to the federal government, and go out of their way to help another state that was actively sticking it to the federal government? And the federal government, had the opportunity to respond. And I waited on pins and needles for a response, for a statement, for something, because they could have just came in and said, no, fuck you. We own the monopoly on violence. You don't get to use force unless we tell you to. And I figured they were going to roll in by force and kick people out. That's fully what I was expecting. Apparently, that didn't happen, though. It stayed very quiet from what I'm able to tell, and they allowed Texas and the other states who are helping them to continue, which is shocking. I almost can't believe it. Something tells me there's something else going on that they're keeping quiet, as to not bring attention to the fact that half the country just stood up to the federal government. They probably don't want people to realize that, oh wow, if there's enough states, there's enough people who do this, they'll fucking bend over for us and get on their knees. Pretty fucking cool precedent, but I really struggle to believe that that's what they're allowing to happen. So I'm trying to find out as much as I can. It's been very quiet since, for obvious reasons. I hope, the states are doing their thing to protect the border because what's happening is absolutely crazy. I think I saw the other day I've been seeing pictures pop up of signage in the airports where these illegal immigrants or these undocumented immigrants are not able to fly without photo ID. And if TSA wants to take a picture from there, they can just opt out. Like I am now going through the process of renewing my fucking passport, and you would think I am about to meet the Pope or the president, and I'm getting checked as if I'm a terrorist. These people can just walk right in and hop on a plane and go wherever the fuck they want. That's insane. And what's even scarier, and this was actually shared in a meme, I'm not sure how backed in truth it is. It doesn't feel like it's that far from reality, but I could see our military being comprised of quite a few of these illegal immigrants for several reasons. The first being this administration or the state in general, the powers that be, know that there is a very large and growing number of people who are saying, it doesn't matter who the fuck we vote for, these people all suck. They're getting rich, they're not dying. We are very much poor, unable to afford a house, sick, and dying. So something's got to give. Something ain't working. And I think they're realizing people are now picking up on that a little bit more. So further, and then to sort of on top of that, the military recruitment numbers are way down. So you have a bunch of people who no longer believe in the system, who no longer believe in the country, the people leading the country. So why the fuck would they go and fight for this country, join the fighting ranks of this country, especially when we're not really defending this country when we're out in the Middle East helping our greatest ally, Israel, bomb mud huts and just destroy people in fishing boats with Hellfire missiles. So, what better way then to fill those lacking numbers and with people who are military age fighting males, no less, which you've heard over and over again. And they're going to do exactly whatever you tell them because you're going to feed them, you're going to house them, and you're going to arm them. You are going to put God in these gangsters' pockets, and they are going to be the greatest kill squad you have ever had. I hope I am wrong, but fuck. The numbers coming in and you see who is coming in every single video. It is unequivocally all dudes, all young or younger middle-aged guys from different countries, from Africa, from China, wherever the fuck, all looking for security jobs. All it's fitting together a little too well for that meme not to really become a thing. And that really, really scares me because I couldn't think of a better fighting force for the state to have in its pocket to utilize however it pleases. And when you look at everything they're doing to just get rid of the roadblocks in these people's way to let them in by traveling, by giving them medical care, by giving them phones, by turning them into girls if they so please, I I really hope I'm wrong, but fuck, I I saw that meme and it's like spiraled instantly. I was like, holy fucking shit, that's crazy. All that to say, though, shout out to the states that went to Texas's aid. Um, this lovely water winter hellhole did not. No shocker. Um, we're changing our gun laws though to prohibit private sales this month. Actually, that all goes away. And unless you have a CPL, you need to go to the police and ask for a pistol purchase permit. And there's also always talk about yellow and red flag laws coming out or going into effect at some nondescript time, which is why I'm going to be leaving the state. Hopefully, I I can't stand it here. I'm no longer represented here. I can't pay taxes here anymore. I can no longer adequately defend myself here. I feel, and so. Instead of voting, because that has done fuck all to fix the roads or anything else in this broken state, I do see myself going somewhere warmer, where I would be happier, with fewer taxes, and where I am able to take a little more control of the things in my life. The time horizon is years, it's not months, it's not even next year. But that's sort of something that I've been coming to terms with and really thinking out. Unless something changes, but I don't see that happening because the trajectory this state has been on course for quite some time and hasn't really changed. But, anyways, the the California case, I believe it's California, of the chick who stabbed her boyfriend like 100 times due to like psychotic break from smoking from smoking weed. That one's a crazy one. I've heard people talk about it, read a couple articles, um, and yeah, I know that if you are prone to certain, mental conditions like schizophrenia or something, you take too much of like a certain strain. I don't. You could your mind could just snap. Um, but the fact that I'm pretty sure she was just sentenced to like community service, right? I don't think she even has to serve any like jail time for killing and stabbing her boyfriend of only a couple weeks, by the way, over 100 times. I think it doesn't matter whether they're too light or too hard on certain crimes. Judges are people. Beware the frailty of man, calling way back to the pillars of this show. They're human. It is impossible. It is impossible in every sense of the word for a human being, let alone someone as old as a judge, and they're typically pretty old, to practice, to go about making these decisions and calls objectively. They're going to have biases. They're going to have leanings. And since it is a state position, they all have to be politics at some point too. They're going to use those political leanings to make judgments and calls about people's lives. This one doesn't make a whole lot of fucking sense, but it just goes to show how out of touch these people are at any level of the state, at any level where a human being is inserting him or herself in the process of deciding whether or not you have access to your rights, or whether or not you are safe in your own home or in your own communities, or you can make your own home or community safe. It's just another example of how silly it is and how literally insane it is to think that these people can do the right thing or can do their job objectively and selflessly. So I thought that was very interesting, and just a strange case, like all around. Another interesting, tragically hilarious, the whole Boeing thing. I've been all over this. I love watching them crash and burn, literally. A company that should be nowhere near the Marxist DEI equity bullshit like quota that you see colleges doing, that you see mediocre jobs doing. Because you're building and flying airplanes. Like I do not care the color of the skin, the gender of the individual, or how retarded or not retarded they are. They better be the best goddamn engineer, the best goddamn I don't even know what the position is called, assembler of airplanes there has ever been. Because I truly could not give a fuck less if you showed me this was all built by women. I'm going to stay way the fuck away from that plane because that tells me you do not give a shit about what they achieved. And now we are literally seeing door panels fly off. We are seeing engines burning as these planes are emergency landing. We are seeing landing gear snap off on planes, and it is spectacular. And it's spectacular, excuse me, it's spectacular so far because nobody has died. Let me be very clear. Nobody has died yet through their absolute fucking arrogance and their ignorance and their incompetence. But these people, Boeing, all the airlines, the FAA, they all need to be fucking crucified. And everything, this DEI bullshit, needs to die with them because people are going to start fucking dying for it. And that is not fucking cool. And I'm super fired up about that because I'm about to fly 8 hours in the next week or so here out of the country, which is I'm getting my passport renewed. Um, and the last thing I need to be thinking about is whether or not this plane's going to fucking explode or fall apart as I'm looking at this plane was built by all retarded Asian ladies or something. I know they don't have retards in China. That's just an American thing. Um, like, which is also why I chose an Airbus. I had two options. I had a Boeing or an Airbus, and the Boeing actually would have been a little more convenient based on the times, but I said, nope, I'm doing the Airbus because I need to worry as least as possible when I'm flying over the ocean for 8 hours, whether or not I'm just going to crash and die. Um, and I think this is actually a very fitting conversation because we are now in Black History Month. Um, and a lot of this DEI stuff, it may sound very intuitive and it may sound very much for, what MLK stood for in his dream. And they will use MLK and his dream as a backing sort of, as a battle cry or as a supporting cause, or that what they're doing is in his image and likeness, and working towards his goal, when in fact, it could not be further from that. I have spoken about this ad nauseum when I went into mortgages. Another thing where DEI needs to be absolutely slaughtered because that is the biggest financial decision most people will ever make. So I'm not really sure why it matters what color someone's skin is, but whatever. Anywho, um, yeah, equity is incompatible with equality. It's just as simple as that. True equality means that you are not going to give special treatment to somebody, whether it be positive or negative, based on the color of their skin, their ethnicity, whatever. Equity simply means to do exactly that, but in the name of those peddling equity or DEI or whatever, and it's always aimed towards a certain demographic. And actually, if someone from said certain demographic comes out and says, actually, I don't really agree with that, they're suddenly not a part of that demographic, which tells me it's not about anything. It's not about fairness. It's not about any of that. You are trying to simply rape the world to get whatever the fuck you feel as though you deserve for no work whatsoever. And we are all just supposed to bow down and yield to that ideology. So I'm having less and less patience for these people as planes are literally now falling out of the sky. And I'm now just telling them to fuck off. I had an interaction at work actually where I said, I can't hear you. I cannot take you seriously right now. I know what your title is. I know what your job is. What you believe in is horseshit and it's dangerous. And I don't care what you think about that because planes are literally falling out of the sky because of what you believe. And I've been right for however long it's been since things started to get a little weird and take a turn. So hold on to that. Let's see how that plays out. But I'm pretty confident in my beliefs. So I'm going to stick with what MLK believed. And I think I'm going to basically remain on the right side of history for that. So I don't really know how you're going to come back from that either, but you can try. I'm walking away now. That sort of thing. Less and less patience for this horseshit ideology. They're not going to hear mine, so I'm not going to hear theirs. It's as simple as that. Don't peddle it, and you're not going to. If you don't want none, don't start none. Basically, is where I'm coming at this from because this shit's fucking dangerous. It's only a matter of time till we see it start to play out in the doctor's, sort of world. And maybe we already are seeing it. The articles just aren't as relevant if we are. But the planes, that is fucking crazy. And the one thing I always go back to, the one and only female guest of the show, Britt, she is an engineer and a very smart one. If you listen to her episodes, she is incredibly accomplished and incredibly smart and good at her job and what she does. She happens to be a woman in a very male dominated space. However, it is very clear through talking to her and through seeing her achievements and what she's doing. Excuse me. Just got out of the gym, got a bit of a runny nose. It's very clear by talking to her, by seeing her achievements, by what she's doing overseas right now, that she has earned that. She was not given that position to be like, oh, we have a woman in engineering, we hit the quota. She didn't go into it asking for that either, and yet she will tell you that she sees that. She's gone through her PhD with several women like that, where they have no business being there, and yet they're there for whatever reason, whether the college had to make a quota and they thought they can lean on that, who cares? But there are people like that, and it's very clear. We can tell as people, as animals, through evolution, we can sense that weakness in people. We know when somebody belongs and when somebody doesn't, especially when it comes to merit in a task, like a group project. For example, it is very clear right up front when someone is going to carry their weight and someone is not. That's through absolute ages of evolution. We pick up on that. We have to. And what this DEI horseshit is telling you to do is just turn that off. Completely ignore that. Who gives a fuck about whether or not this person is weak, whether this person is unaccomplished? Put them in that job anyways and fully trust them. And that is dangerous and that is horseshit. Had that thought in the shower after the work here. What am I doing here? Oh, I said I was going to go back to something with the training. The cool part about the CQB League is that you can run in there with any piece of gear you want. So our guys were running around full kit. Mind you, this kit is well above the level we're operating at in the shoot house, but that's by design. I want to challenge myself. I want to understand how difficult it's going to be with what I have so I know what I need to change, what I need to cut back on, or what I may need to add, although it's a lot more cutting back and changing. I haven't really added anything since starting. That being said, you can run any gun you want. So the first time I ran just my little suppressed AR9 and my Glock. Very, very fun, very cool. This last Friday, I actually ran the Vector, which I must say, the Vector gets a bit of a bad rap. It's a super cool gun. We see it in Call of Duty, so it's sort of gotten its time in the limelight. People have sort of romanticized about it, and it's kind of gotten shit on. People don't really love it, especially not in like full auto. I will say, in this close quarters sort of setting where I have to switch hands, I found it to be very ergonomic. I found it to be very comfortable. I don't have to compress getting into doorways. Switching hands is very, very smooth. I'm using and actually, I'm going to shout this company out because it's super cool work. When I bought the Vector, it was during the whole ATF brace horseshit. So I bought it for relatively cheap because they were selling it without a sort of stock mounting point on it. It simply had a QD like attachment, like button on where the buttstock would go for you to attach like a single like swivel like sling. So that immediately got thrown away. And I was looking into options for, like an upper for the Vector that allowed me to mount like a stock. And I've seen the buffer tube conversions. I don't think that looks good on the Vector. Just my opinion. Growing up playing, Call of Duty, seeing what the real stock should look like. So I went on, the Vector site. I bought the actual upper, and then I was sort of waiting to find, what I can use as an alternative that will fit the upper that allows you to mount the actual Chris stock. And so what I did end up finding through lots of research was a company called Farrowtech, Farrow. They 3D print adapters for braces that fit specific weapons and specific stocks that have removable pieces that allow you to mount popular braces. So what happened, and I'll put pictures up about this website about what I bought and how it works. What I bought was a strong arm brace adapter for the Chris Vector stock, which allowed me to buy the stock. And I've removed the cool thing about the Vector stock is it's highly modular, highly adjustable. You can remove the end plate, and instead you can throw this adapter on from Ferrotech, and then that strong arm brace just goes right over it. And actually, as a pistol brace, it works very fucking well. It's very comfortable, more so than a normal AR pistol brace. It makes a lot more sense. But using it in that shoot house too, with the way the Vector stock is designed, it was a breeze. It was a blast. This isn't a call to go buy a Chris Vector if you're interested in CQB or clearing your house. This just like my backpack gun, and I figured for funsies, I'll run it, get familiar with it a little more. The controls, operating them more than I have in any given range day, getting really familiar with it there. Very much, if you're familiar with AR controls, the Vector's a breeze. The bolt catch, basically in the same spot. The magwell, relatively the same spot. The safety controls, all very similar feeling in a very wild looking package. So that's my little plug. No plans on getting sponsored by Chris here anytime soon, but fuck, that'd be cool. um, but yeah, I think that was really it. Sort of little touch base, saying what's up. I got new audio stuff, which is all very exciting. I should never fuck up another guest recording again, even though I know something's gonna happen that does it. All the crazy shit that's been happening with the border, the illegal immigrants, the planes falling out of the sky, the girl who stabbed her boyfriend 100 plus times, and the judge who completely fucked that away, and then just training, talking about our experiences there. I'll end it on this. It has been said on this podcast, when I'm referring to the group chat and the guys in the group chat, how we came together, how we sort of found a common thing that sort of brought us together. So we sort of operated under that thing within the state, separately from the main thing, for a while. We have decided that, after some soul searching, some thinking, we had been growing pretty meaningfully on our own. We weren't necessarily leaning on the brand or the person or the thing that we originally sort of bound together under. The people we were adding to our group chat, who were coming out, who were talking to us, who were asking questions, who were creating meaningful conversation, were people we ran into at like the bar when we were, sort of gathering as a bunch of idiots, people we saw on the range, people who we go to the gym to, who know we're into this stuff, who hear us talking about this stuff, and we bring them in ourselves. And so with that, we said we have a great opportunity now to almost brand ourselves as something specific to the community that we're in, that would speak more and help more to our efforts instead of sort of relying on something else. That original thing brought us together, which is great. We owe an incredible debt and amount of gratitude to that thing. But it's a very exciting time because now we're all getting in rooms. We're all talking about, what's our mission? What do we stand for? What's the image we want to put out into the world, and go from there. So it's going to be different from this. We're talking, I want to keep it different from this, or separate from this, rather. I'm still going to be very much involved in this sort of community group of guys who are training and getting very serious here. And I'm going to shout them out. I want to be as involved as possible. I want to collaborate. I want to do everything I can to prop this group out and grow it and make it stronger. But it will remain separate only because this is my thing. That thing is for the people. And I would never want to have a conflict of interest or expect one to bend to the other, when maybe they don't blend very well at all in certain times. So just as cleaner for me to keep this thing separate. But there's some big things coming in the state of Michigan, that we are working on. And the guys that are working on it are excellent dudes who I have gotten to know a little bit more recently, as we hang out a little bit more weekly, and sit down. We've had plenty of late nights here in the clubhouse, just, drinking, talking, shooting the shit, recording very bad episodes, mind you. But if you're in the state of Michigan, if you know people in the state of Michigan, send them my way. We'll get you added to the group. If this whole gun thing is your thing, if this whole freedom thing is your thing, no matter your level of experience or training, that's what this is for. We don't have a lot of places to go to talk about this stuff, to learn, and sort of just be exposed to it. And getting embarrassed and learning and just sort of osmosis and like watching other people talk about it and picking up on things is how we learn and we grow. It's uncomfortable. You got to get uncomfortable to get good and to get better. So spread the word. Something big's coming in the state of Michigan. We don't have a name for it yet. We don't have a brand for it yet, but we are building it. It's over 100 people at this point who are taking this thing pretty seriously. And this isn't just like an Instagram page of 100 followers. These are people who are talking every single day. These are people who are trying to plan things and get out and get after it. And so I'm putting that out there. Um, I trust all of them. I will say that much. We've all followed the rules. We are not advocating any sort of ugliness or whatnot, or rule breaking. We would never do such a thing. Also, because these are internet friends too. At the end of the day, don't be stupid, right? Like Michigan, we already had the FBI try to kidnap the governor by having 12 FBI agents like trick two fucking low IQ individuals into saying they'd kidnap the governor. So the Michigan militia and everything in history with the Michigan armed sort of civilians goes back for a very long time. We're not touching that. We don't care about that. These are just people who have friends and family that they want to take care of. They want to take care of themselves and they care about their freedoms more than anything. They do not want to fuck with anybody. They don't care about anybody really, other than the good individuals that they're hanging out with. They don't want to cause, they don't want none. So they're not going to start none. But they see the direction the world's going and they are concerned and they want to make sure that they're getting better and they're making others better around them in their community. And that's extremely important. So that is happening. That's happening actively right now. And we're not the only ones. We're not even the best ones, I'm going to say. But I'm extending my hand out to others as a way of saying, come take a look. If it's not your thing, cool. It's not your thing. It happens to be my thing and about 100 other people's things. And I can refer you to other places as well that I train at, that I know, that I go to, and maybe you'll find community there. But let me help. That's sort of what we want to do here. So with that, we'll call it enjoy your weekends, enjoy your weeks. Thanks for listening. And hopefully next episode, I should have some of the guests back that I lost audio to on. So sorry for the wait again, but stay metal. Thank you.